Last episode, we talked OpenSearch 3.0. It was a great episode. I wanted to get more in. We didn't have the time, so I have Andrew and Saurabh back again to talk more OpenSearch 3.0. Welcome back, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having us again.
Yeah.
Great. Great to
So
see you.
great talk last time. We talked about what's coming. We talked about some of the breaking changes. We talked about what to expect. We talked about um, Lucene 10, major milestones, so much good stuff. If you haven't watched this episode, please go back and watch the previous episode. Today, I wanted to focus more on kind of what to expect. Now that we've talked about the cool, shiny features, what does it take to actually move to 3.0? And what does that look like if you feel like you missed the boat, you're still on Elasticsearch, and you finally want to move over to OpenSearch 3.0? What does that look like? So we're going to jump into a few of those things here in this episode. And so we're just going to get kicked off and go. Before we get into the migrations, I want to talk a little bit about how some of the features that we talked about last episode came to be. So this has been run and owned by AWS, right, for a number of years. Last September, this was put into the OpenSearch Software Foundation, which is a part of the Linux Foundation. How do we see the features that are being released here in 3.0 being affected by either contributors or customers?
Right. So I think OpenSearch has always branded itself like a community-driven project. And with 3.0, I think that we see a lot in practice. Like even the proposal for 3.0 was discussed and open on GitHub. It came along with the community feedback, not just from the timeline but also about what we are expecting in terms of the code dependency updates, what we are expecting in terms of the breaking changes, what we are expecting in terms of the roadmaps. So OpenSearch does have a public roadmap, and that roadmap is maintained by community, where people can go and ask the right question. Hey, is this feature coming in like 3.0? Is this something you would want to delay the timeline for? So we have had those conversations as well, and then I think a lot of community input came in from the roadmap perspective, like features and also the timeline. So the whole inception of 3.0, like from the idea to kind of the journey where we are right now in the process of getting beta out, has been pretty much coming from the community standpoint.
We talked about how in the last episode, Uber had some functionality that they're adding to this, which is really cool. And it's great to see that. But then also, I feel like maybe there are individuals in the community who are like, well, yeah, of course, Uber is going to be the one to help. Like they're always doing these cool things. Is it possible for individuals to contribute or smaller companies to contribute to this, or is it kind of just for the big boys? What does that look like in terms of the open search features and functionality?
Right. I think it's not limited just to the partners or the bigger, companies who work in or who have adopted OpenSearch as a project that they want to contribute on. A lot of these contributions are coming from individual contributors, or I would say developers from different projects, and especially that is very much seen during our community meetings. Because if whenever we do kind of run community meetings for different areas such as search, indexing, and stuff like that, and then they are kind of scheduled and publicly broadcasted on Meetup. So we do see a lot of these individual contributors coming in and joining and talking about some of the issues, good first issue that they are looking to kind of work with, or even reporting bugs and as a lot of feature requests that comes from these individual contributors as well.
What if an individual is interested in OpenSearch? Maybe they're not a developer or engineer, and they want to be, help contribute. Are there ways that they can contribute somehow to the project?
No, I think that's a very good question, and something that is being asked a lot of times when we go in conferences. So, I'll just give a touch point and then let Andrew talk more, because Andrew has been driving these, collaboration with partners and also these contributors. So, in terms of resources, there are getting started, guide in terms of how to kind of, start thinking about OpenSearch in general, like how is the architecture, like what is the overall functionality suite, and then also from a developer's perspective, how do you kind of start on the GitHub, how it is a build repository setup, and then how to even make your first contribution. So we have like some dedicated, I would say, documentation and some videos around it as well. But yeah, I would let Andrew talk more here, because from an engineering standpoint, he has interacted with a lot of people and gotten them onboarded.
Sure. I mean, the best place to start, as always, is just to go opensearch.org, and you'll find all the resources ultimately linked from there. But as far as to answer your question of like if you're not a developer and you want to contribute, I would say the best way to contribute is to first of all use the product, download the Docker image, download the tarball, actually, you know, run run the software and get your hands dirty with it. You'll find lots of resources on opensearch.org and more broadly on the internet about how to do that. And then if you want to contribute, you know, if you if you find bugs, if you find features, come to GitHub and open the issue to discuss that. We also have the forum. You can find that linked from opensearch.org, and a public Slack instance. So if anybody wants to chat on Slack, uh, you can do that, and we get quite a lot of engagement on the Slack as well. So those are the best resources. Additionally, if you go to meetup.com and search for the OpenSearch project, you'll find all the various community meetings and triage meetings and things that we have scheduled there. And if there's a particular component area or you will likely find a meeting focused on search, for example, or indexing or something like that. Feel free to join one of those meetings. They're open to everybody, and yeah, lots of ways to contribute.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, did you have something more, Saurabh?
No, I was just going to touch upon on a couple of more avenues. Like we do have um, the forum. So OpenSearch forum is also a good platform for asking questions and getting some traction from the either maintainers like Andrew or maybe other people who are running into a similar problem. And also we have the playground. So these playgrounds are a good way to kind of experience some of the features early on and try and see how these features would function and things like that. So a lot of dashboard features or even observability and those features are available on these playgrounds. So you can go try create some ingestion workload or create some test data and try to get that experience. Yeah.
I love hearing that there's something for everyone here, right? If somebody wants to work on documentation or if they want to help with features in actual coding, they can, or they can be a part of the community, whether they're lurking in the forums and in Slack or
Yeah.
contributing there. And that playground, it sounds awesome. And actually, I've used it here about 6 months ago, and it was great to be able to go in and spin that up really quickly and get my hands on whatever version was the latest at the time. So for individuals that want to try this out and they don't have the resources, do check out the playground. It's great. So before we go into segue into the migrations and kind of what that looks like, we talked a little bit about OpenSearch having and GitHub having resources, but I think people, as they hear about 3.0, their first questions are, what's going to be in it? What does this mean to me? And then how do I move to it, or how do I test it? We've talked about each of these pieces a little bit, but is there documentation available or that's going to be available with this release for people to know what to expect and to have the steps to move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That information is mostly available today, sort of spread across various GitHub issues, and is probably not the easiest to consume, but certainly by the time of release, we will have blog posts, we have release highlights, release notes. All of that will be on opensearch.org in an easily consumable with format with all the best stuff sort of up front. As we are still in the release process now, like lots of things are still in flux. It's always an exciting time as we get closer to release. So, yeah, if you in the specific repositories or areas that you might have interest in, there will be sort of documentation about what has changed and what's there. But yeah, definitely not quite ready yet, but there will be release blogs and release notes with all the highlights will be available on the website.
Awesome. All right, big shift here. People want this. People want to put it into their environments. Let's talk about migrations and upgrade paths, right? So anyone that is currently on 2.19 when this comes out, Andrew, what does that look like for them to upgrade?
So a couple of options there. If you're on the latest, the latest previous version, which is 2.19, you can do in-place upgrades, you can do, which an in-place upgrade is usually you will just bring down one node, install the new software, bring it back up. It will connect to your 2.19 cluster. They still know how to talk to each other. The data format is compatible, and you can go through all the nodes in your cluster and upgrade that way. Additionally, you can take more of a blue-green type strategy where you spin up new nodes, connect them to that cluster, move the shards from one node to the other, and then once all the data is off the old nodes, you can tear them down and you're on the new version. Because 3.0 maintains compatibility with that last miner, you have all those options. Now, if you're coming from something potentially older, the 3.0 nodes are not going to know how to talk to these older versions, and the data format of your indexes will also not be compatible with the latest software either. So, however, there you do have migration options. I would start out by plugging. We have what's called the Migration Assistant for OpenSearch, which is a set of tools to help users migrate. And this includes, you could be coming from Elastic 6.8 or Elastic 7.10 or something like that, or OpenSearch 1.3, for example. These much older versions. There's a number of different strategies there. But ultimately, you cannot just simply update the software in place for those older versions. You're going to have to move data and potentially re-index data. But the migration assistant has a set of tools to make things easier for you. It also has tools for helping you sort of test out compatibility ahead of time. Possibly, often a strategy, particularly for the cases where high availability is a big deal, you're actually going to want to stand up the new version, mirror your data into the new version, have your old version running, and then kind of test your application against both. The migration assistant will have various tools for potentially even capturing some of your queries, making sure your queries maintain compatibility, all sorts of that. So I would, anybody in sort of that boat, please do check out the migration assistant for tools there. And then also AWS has lots of documentation about updates and strategies to use for upgrading as well. So yeah, lots of resources available there.
So I'm gonna you already answered this in that response there, but I am gonna call this out separately once again. So for anyone who feels like they want to jump into OpenSearch now, they're currently on Elastic. Do we have a path for them to get up to 3.0?
We do, yeah. So check out the migration assistant. But yeah, we do get asked sometimes, like, are you compatible? Or like, I have a client that's talking to Elastic. Do you speak the exact same API as Elasticsearch? The answer is no. Like, these are different products, right? They literally forked, and at the time of the fork, they're sort of independently evolving since then. However, we do have lots of these APIs are fairly slow evolving. Things that work don't need to change, and we have tooling to help with these differences and enable the migration.
Yeah.
And we talked about this on the last episode, but for people that maybe didn't tune into that, we did talk about this having some breaking changes around plugins. So can we talk briefly about, migration is one thing, but then also you've got the add-ons, the plugins, and making sure that those work. What does the strategy look like now for plugins going into 3.0?
Yeah, so I mean the plugins that we ship with our distribution, those those will all work, and the features, they'll still continue to offer all the great features they provide. However, we do have lots of users that develop their own custom plugins that they install into OpenSearch, and so it will you will need to update your so your custom plugin will be its own sort of development environment. You will need to take a dependency on the the 3.0 version of OpenSearch, and you can expect to find some compilation errors and things, and you will need to make some changes. Many of the we talked a bit about some of the modularization work. So many of the problems you'll run into are kind of just structural changes of code has moved around. So you'll just have to change some import statements and it will still broadly work the same way. There are, depending on how sort of deep into the internals your plugin gets, you may find more significant changes. And due to some of the platform updates of requiring a more modern version of Java, the changes with the new version of Lucene that come in, those may require some more changes. But again, those are the very advanced users that are actually developing their own custom code to run inside their OpenSearch clusters.
Not everyone's going to see this, Side
Right.
note here, if you're not doing your own custom development work, the default plugins that ship with OpenSearch are going to work.
Yeah.
It's if you're doing additional.
Exactly.
And even if you're doing some additional code change or maybe developing your own plugin, I think the whole release cycle of a major release is tuned into like alpha, beta, and then GA as compared to any minor release. So I think this is again building in the perspective that, okay, we will ship on the alpha and beta, which will be an opportunity for any partner or plugin developers to kind of try out these, changes that they need to do if their plugin needs some of those changes by the time GA is launched and get that ready in time.
Yeah, the artifacts, these alpha and beta artifacts that are available in Maven to pull down, and so early adopters that want to get started on this work early, it's been available for them now for a while, and will still be there. So so there's no need to wait until the actual GA release to get started on this early integration.
You can start right away.
Yep.
Saurabh, as people are testing this out, when something goes GA, that means it's obviously we've had other alpha releases, potentially beta releases. Have you heard of any success stories? This is the kind of thing that like engineers like to hear about. They like to hear about how other people do things and the successes that they've had, how that's done. Are there any stories or things that you've heard of with these, prior to GA, successfully migrating over to 3.0?
Right. So I think there are a couple of stories that I can mention here. Based on the alpha feedback, I think we got some anecdotal data points saying that, okay, a 50 node cluster was successfully migrated from 2.19 to 3.0. It was in one of our issues as well in forum. So that's kind of, tells that, okay, it's not something alarming or something a lot of consideration is not needed for users when they are simply moving their workload from 2.19 to 3.0. Other stories, I think, related to some of the features like reader-writer separation. I think we talked about that previously. It's one of the sought out feature where people are looking for, isolation of workload and failure and things like that with having separate deployments for readers and writers. So we have some of the partners who have already been trying this feature in the experimental version, and they have submitted us or provided on GitHub with good feedback, which we iterated upon, and then with 3.0 we'll see the GA version of reader-writer separation happening.
Awesome. All right. So last question, then we'll turn you loose here. What has been the most exciting feature or functionality in this whole process? It's been coming for a long time. What's the thing that the feature or functionality that you're most excited about? We'll start, Andrew, with you.
Sure. I'll take this as a developer and engineer. To me, the most exciting thing is the update to a more modern version of Java. Like the Java language has been evolving, and lots of great new things have been added to the JDK. And for the OpenSearch 2.x line, we needed to maintain compatibility with Java 11, and so that meant a lot of these great new features that make development a lot more fun have just not been available to use inside OpenSearch. And so with 3.0, we're moving up to a more modern baseline of JDK 21, and so that unlocks lots of great new syntactic sugar, and also just like new performance and features within the JDK that are really exciting to use. And so even early on, we're not necessarily leveraging everything, but like this is more of a forward-looking thing. I'm really excited about what this will unlock for the project going forward.
Yeah, I think definitely it's a hard pick between some of the foundational changes, what we have been doing, and with realizing them in 3.0. But I would pick up like maybe Lucene 10 integration and upgrade is one of the most exciting things that I'm looking forward to. And it's primarily because coming from the search engine area for years, I feel like this is like getting a new shiny engine like under the hood, and then you get a lot of these improvements out of the box. And because I've been also closely working with some of the folks here on the team on looking into some of these benchmarking numbers, diving deep and understanding what Lucene 10 is offering, not just for the search but also for vectors and other related use cases. So I think it's going to be a huge lift.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you both for joining me for this InstaBlinks interview. I appreciate your time. Looking forward to OpenSearch 3.0. And for everyone that's still here watching, please like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next episode of InstaBlinks. For now, this is Brian Graff. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.